Hi, I'm Tom Murphy, and welcome to another edition of the show. Tonight, we're very privileged to have, from her busy schedule, Zoe Colon from the Hispanic Resource Center to tell us a little bit about what's going on in Hispanic Resource Center and how it affects the community. Hey, Zoe, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm okay.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for coming. I know you have a lot going on, and I appreciate you taking the time.
Sure.
Let's get right to it. Can we just, there's a lot of folks that have heard of Hispanic Resource Center, but maybe don't know as much of the history of how it came about in its genesis. Can you talk a little bit about how it started in the Village of Mamaroneck?
Sure. We were incorporated in 1998, but there was already a group of folks, including Marta Lopez and other community leaders and a lot of the folks on the local summit who were working together to try to address some of the issues of the new immigrant community, which at that time was growing quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were formally incorporated in 1998, and we've been around now for over 15 years, but as the Hispanic Resource Center for 15 years. We had a very active board, very liberal folks from Larchmont, Mamaroneck in this area who wanted to see social change and justice, and so they came together around some of the day labor issues,
Mm-hmm.
some of the harassment that was happening at the time, and the lawsuit. Fast forward to about, I would say, maybe 2007, 2008, when we started the Worker Center. And out of the lawsuit, the men won the right to be able to stand on the corner, but then we also started a Worker Center.
Straight Gate Church.
That was at Straight
Straight
Gate
Gate
Church.
yeah.
And we were there nearly four years. At the same time, we were at St. Thomas Episcopal Church, where we had some of our social services being offered there and educational programs being offered there. We were at Straight Gate. The Worker Center is an alternative to the street corner, and so where people can come. It's a dignified space where they can come and wait for work, and there's a restroom, and there's coffee, and we're there also providing information on employer responsibility, workers' rights.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of like the beginning of where we really started to formalize our programs. Before then, we were providing a lot of information and referrals, so people would come in and we would connect them to other agencies and service providers. And it was really in 2006, 2007, under the leadership of Mariana Boneo, which a lot of folks know in this community, and John Gitlitz, who's the president of the board for about 8 years.
Yeah.
So together they worked really hard to, really formalize the programs and start to provide services and start the Worker Center. And since then, we've grown tremendously. In the last 4 years, I would say, we moved on to this wonderful location on the avenue, right on Mamaroneck Avenue, right across from La Piñata Bakery, right by the train station. Again, a storefront location, just optimal. We also have an entrance in the back towards
That abuts Columbus Park.
Right by Columbus Park, and so it allows some of the workers on the corner to come back and forth pretty easily, and just feel connected to the center. Whether or not they use it to actually acquire work, to get work, they can go back and forth. And again, the idea is that they have a safe space and they can come get information if there's any issues with getting payment, wage theft. We can file claims for them. We give them information. We do a lot of trainings, which I'll tell you about.
Okay.
But that location has really helped us in terms of visibility in the community, but also, in terms of gaining a lot of respect and, not just respect, but just getting folks who wouldn't normally understand what we do to get to understand what we do a little bit better. So they see that we are providing comprehensive services, that we're helping this community, and we're doing a lot more by being on the avenue and providing the services that they need than not.
Right.
And
So
so some people that were oppositional are now
less oppositional.
Friends and less oppositional, a lot more receptive.
Well, what it sounds like to me, and what I've watched it grow into, years ago in New York City, when different ethnic groups immigrated from Europe, the Irish and the Italians and Jewish folks, they had settlement houses, and the settlement house was basically, it's a self-help organization to try and promote, a lot of employment issues and stuff like that. So this, although it's a great organization, people need to know this is nothing new in American history.
Oh, absolutely.
We've been doing, new immigrant groups have been helping out, the folks who come after them forever, and it's a way to assimilate, and it's a way to make life easier for both the newcomers and the folks who were here before.
Sure.
And I know
Sure.
a lot of people are really happy with the Mamaroneck Avenue location, and just have everything centralized. I mean, just to remind people, you had your offices down at St. Thomas's, and then
Right, we had two locations.
you had 2 locations.
Right.
And now it's all
So this allowed us to centralize not only the services, but all of the staff. And
Right.
having the workers also in this one location with multiple services, again, led to a lot of folks being a lot more receptive and understanding of what we were trying to do.
Now, it seems to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, that for a long time, I think and for reasons that we that had to do with what was going on in the community, the Hispanic Resource Center seemed to focus a lot of attention on the workers. But it appears to me you're reaching out more to the families. And,
Right. I
yeah.
mean, there was an urgent need at that point
Yes.
to organize around those issues.
There was a fire. You had to put out the fire. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. But we've always worked with families, women, children. It's just that we really didn't get to branch out a lot until after the fire was put out, pretty much.
Right.
And so we didn't have the resources. And so we went from focusing a lot on the day laborers because of the issues that were happening at that moment.
Right.
But we were also providing ESL classes, for example, English as a second language classes at that time. It's just that very few people knew about it. It's just really our community
Right.
and the people that were coming that really knew about it. It had to do a lot with location and resources. So as we started to grow, I mean, we've doubled our budget in the last 3 years.
Wow.
And the staff member, the personnel. And so, it's just a lot of change in the last 4 years.
Well, can you talk about some of the other programs that the...
Sure. So we've always had case management social services, and that's where people come in for concrete human services. So people who need assistance with food, with housing, emergency cash assistance, depending on grants that we get specialized for that. Translation services, assistance with immigration. So those are our case management, advocacy services for families, and that's for women, children, men. And we have a workforce development program now. It's called Building Our Future. It's a 3-pronged approach to workforce development, and it took us a while to really figure out what the community needed, and we wanted to bring programs that are relevant to our community. We're targeting new immigrants, and we wanted to specifically address their needs. And so the first prong is language development. And so it's addressing literacy at its very core. It's not just English as a second language that we do, but also adult literacy. And so we found that a lot of our families were in ESL year after year and not necessarily progressing the way that we thought they should be.
Because they didn't have a basic literacy
Right,
skills.
they didn't have the basic literacy skills. And so for some people, it's even further than that. It's not just Spanish literacy, but also they speak an indigenous language. And so they were learning Spanish and then English.
Oh, really?
Right, yes.
You mean an indigenous form of Spanish, or just...
No, indigenous
like
languages of indigenous peoples.
Oh, wow.
Right. So like the Mayan, population has 28 different languages just within the Mayan culture.
That's fascinating.
And
I didn't
those
know
are
that.
formal languages, not dialects. And so people are coming in from such, diverse places
Right.
with different dialects, different languages. And here we are, the small organization really trying to respond. And so, so we address adult literacy through a program called Plazas Comunitarias, and it's put out by the Mexican Consulate. It's a formal curriculum, and it includes life sciences, math, reading, writing. It's a very complete curriculum. It's provided for free. We do the classes for free. We have about 30 women and men in that class, and on average, they're starting in the 1st and 2nd grade. And they're simultaneously, if they're interested and if they need to, taking ESL classes so that...
Well, they're taking basic literacy.
Absolutely,
Right.
yeah. So they need to learn their work vocabulary, in English.
Right.
And so they're also often also in ESL. So that's the language development. We have a computer literacy program starting at basic up to intermediate 2.
Okay.
And basic is literally, folks who are not comfortable with using a mouse, never turned one on, right?
Right.
And intermediate is looking at learning how to navigate the school district's website, Googling, doing research, looking for work online. So
Because
that's our
now on the school
intermediate
website, you can access your kids' grades.
It's paperless, right?
Their
Right,
attendance.
Attendance, homework,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Do you do much work with families, kind of like a conduit to interact with the schools?
We do. We actually work really closely with the PATHS committee and, the social workers, the principals. We attend meetings of Padres Unidos, which is like the Latino PTA groups.
Okay.
And so we do remain very connected to the school district. in
Okay.
those ways through parents and through staff members, principals, administrators.
I mean, that's good because
Absolutely.
it's been my experience that this dealing with the school district could be daunting, when you're a native. So it must be somebody from another culture and another language. It could be, I'm sure.
Yeah,
very-
dealing with any institution really
Yeah.
as a new immigrant is tough.
Yeah.
And I worked in Portchester for a while at the Carver Center, which is another place that's like a settlement house, which is why I get, this is my vision, right, to create something like a settlement house that addresses the multifaceted needs of this community. And I'm glad you brought up the settlement house model. So I worked at the Carver in Portchester. Portchester is, 2.2 square miles. Large, big, small, and it's about 60 to 70% Hispanic, and so that school district was very impressive. And what I see here, it resembles that school district's effort, and I feel like it's we have to commend the school district because having a population is only 20% Hispanic and having the comparable efforts to what's happening in
Yes.
Portester, I think is
I think
is
in a lot of
commendable.
ways, they've been enlightened
Absolutely,
in a lot
absolutely.
of ways. And it's not easy, and you get a lot of pushback when you do it sometimes. But they really have been. And
Very
I don't
supportive.
always agree with the school district, but I honestly could say they really made a concerted effort to reach out and try and make people feel comfortable. And then there'll always be difficulties in
Sure.
in the middle of that, but they
Sure.
really have. And,
And we try to complement what they do.
yes,
you
and
know.
work with them. We talked about.
I didn't talk about job training. Is it okay if I
yeah,
just
sure.
talk about? So the third kind of arm for the workforce development program that I was mentioning, Building Our Future, is hands-on job training. And so again, we have the literacy part, ESL, we have computer literacy, and then we have the hands-on job training. And so the idea is that we need to be training people in areas that are relevant and sectors that they can actually get work in, secure work in. So it doesn't make sense for us to be doing, training and administrative assistant skills because that's not necessarily where people would be hired.
Right.
And so we know that this is a low-wage, quote-unquote, unskilled labor force. And I hate using that word, unskilled, but low-wage workforce that has very limited options at this point, whether you're documented or not. And also the economy doesn't help. And so we wanted to bring training that was relevant, and we did. And so through private foundation grants, we've been able to secure funding to do construction trade workshops, hands-on. Again, if you go to the Worker Center right now, you'll see, wooden beams on the floor, and we have panels where you can see roofing and siding that has been taught to the men.
Okay.
Mostly men. Today we had 2 women in class, so
Good, good.
and it is International Women's Day, so here we are.
Congratulations.
That's
to all
right.
you women out there.
Thank you. So we were happy to see 2 women in the workshop today. And we also have a 60-hour restaurant training, which is in partnership with the Restaurant Opportunity Center in New York City.
Okay.
And we have another training, which is 20 hours for domestic workers. So again, just really looking at what are the trades that they're going to be able to secure work in. And we're able to provide all of these classes for free.
It's funny, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, if you went into a diner, 95% of the waiters were Greek guys.
Right.
And the Hispanic guys were busboys. But now you see the Hispanic guys are now waiters and the managers. And, it's nice to see, it's like the chain of moving up
Right.
in the economy.
Right.
And, I'm sure one day, you're going to see a lot of these places owned by Hispanic guys.
Right.
As
And we're starting to see that
Yeah,
already.
we are.
I mean, certainly in Portchester and Mamaroneck, you're seeing that
Yeah,
to some extent, to some degree.
Yeah,
Right.
there's a place by the train station. It's like a
The ice cream shop?
newspapers and
Oh.
but there's a woman there who's just started like a takeout breakfast place.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and
Okay.
it
Oh, I'll
seems
have to
very
go
good.
check it out.
Yeah, it's right across from the train station. It's called Station Stop.
Oh.
No, that's the liquor store. You don't want to go in there first thing in the morning.
No.
It's you'll see it. It's a little
Okay.
like station. It used to be a stationery
go
store.
by.
But she opened up a kitchen. And,
Oh, wow.
yeah, she's
Okay,
doing. She seems to be
wonderful.
doing very well.
Oh, good.
She's a very
I'm
nice
glad
lady.
to hear
and
that.
I'm sure she'd like to meet you.